When you've got fabric warehouses, fabric SQL, lake houses, and event houses, good gravy, where do you store your data? One way that you want to look at this problem is assessing how data is stored in these various solutions. And here's the quick spoiler, data is stored differently depending on which fabric you're talking about. To frame this up, we're going to look at the recent announcement of Varchar Max being enabled in Fabric data warehouses to show the differences in storage in various sections of Fabric on today's chapter of Databard. Databard, 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 hoi, hoi, hoi. Hi there, I'm Databard, and what you're seeing here right now is a sneak peek at some of the information I'm going to be sharing at FabCon Atlanta with my new presentation on unlocking T-SQL in Fabric, where it works, where it doesn't work, and why. Short answer, different parts of Fabric react to the SQL language differently, and when you're planning out your architecture, you want to make sure you pick the platform that works best for you within Fabric. In this presentation, we're going to demystify some of the considerations around picking your storage within Fabric so that you can pick the storage that makes the most sense to you. Join me at FabCon Atlanta, March 16th through the 20th, 2026, as we take a look at what is in store in the next steps of Microsoft Fabric. If you see me out there in the community, look for the hat. Please come and say hi. I love connecting with more people in the community. So a little disclaimer here, if you're thinking you want to replicate Databard's demonstration of the limits of storage of Varchar Max, think carefully about the SKU you're going to do this on. Databard is running this on an F2 and very quickly is finding that he can push the limits of F2 to the extreme with just generating 16 million characters in a single field in a single table on about 3,000 records. So please, if you want to do this demonstration, let's just trust our word for this. We're doing this so you don't have to. But the limit is truly there. About 16 million characters for that Fabric warehouse, and over 2 billion characters for Varchar Max field in a SQL Server environment. Why would anybody want to store that many characters in a single field? Only if they're gonna write an ode to me and to the wonders of Fabric perhaps. But in most situations, this is probably negligible. And if this is your situation, don't run this on an F2. Seriously, bad things happen. That's my line. What, you're not the only one who can use that phrase. Alright, let's record this before my Fabric capacity admin finds out about this. So I've been trying to showcase what's a good demonstration to showcase the limitations of the Varchar Max field and how it changes from solution to solution. So I did some very basic scripting. I'm not going to share the script because it's not pretty, but trying to hit the limitations of storage. What I mean by that is Varchar Max, while it still seems like it's infinite storage, like, it's not infinite storage. Things still need to be stored somewhere. In a SQL Server type of environment, more often than not, the Varchar Max field's value gets stored on record, but only up to a certain number of characters, and then once you get beyond that, the storage goes off record. It's stored in a separate location within the SQL Server's storage. Fabric, Azure SQL DB, that's the situation we're dealing with there. But Fabric Warehouse is different because Fabric Warehouse storage is Delta. It's not the same sort of storage functions that have existed in SQL Server or existed in Synapse previously. So I wrote a script to prove it out. Now, according to the documentation of Fabric's T-SQL surface area, the limitation of Varchar Max is around 16 megabytes. If you go by the default English collation that is put in place there, that means that we can store roughly about 16 million characters within the field in order to hit that byte limit. So I set up a demo here where in my current environment, I've got this record here, which is stored here. It's just a bunch of repeating A's. A's for which is how my Fabric capacity admin is going to respond once they find out I did this demonstration. You can also see here next to it that my character count for this is about 16,400,000 400,000 characters. So just under that 16 megabyte limit. I did a test of this with my Fabric environment and found out rather quickly that if I then try and perform an operation that would extend the total number of characters beyond that 16 million or so limit, I get this message: export failed, maximum LOB value size has been exceeded. This is again hitting a Fabric warehouse. So this is Fabric Warehouse that has this limitation, but Azure SQL DB does it? Short answer, no. SQL Server environments for Varchar Max, because the values are stored off record for larger datasets, can hold upwards of, I want to say it's about 2 billion characters that it can store with the same collation that I'm showing here. And a quick test of it, if I run this here, and I'm gonna have to re-record this section because I've hit a capacity limit. What I should be able to showcase here, though, is the number of characters stored in this Varchar Max field is over 32 million characters stored in this field. Alright, I'm gonna finish this demo before I start. Databard! What's with this overage? I can't access anything! And there's my capacity admin. I'm gonna go this way. Here we are at the end of the demo, and what did we learn today? Well, first of all, you can only store about 16 million characters within a Varchar Max field within Fabric warehouses. But more importantly, we've come to understand that when you look at implementing Microsoft Fabric, and you know that you have Fabric SQL databases, you have Fabric warehouses, you have event houses, you have lake houses, so many storage options, and each of them have their own limitations as far as what you can do with the SQL language and storing data in those environments. It's important to know the differences between these options so that when we're designing our Fabric architectures, we can design them picking the best options for what our use case entails. Brings us to the end of today's video, and thank you for watching. Have any follow-up questions, hit me up in the comments, and I'll answer those questions either in the comments or in future videos. For now, I'm Databard, and I'll see you in the next chapter, if my Fabric admin lets me.